So Donna, I love everything in this book. I love these 4 spaces that you talk about: the thinking space, the breathing space, the living space, the working space, and everything that you talk about around protecting your time and that concept of making decisions that your future self will thank you for. Now, as I'm thinking through it, my brain goes to, oh my God, that means I've got to say no more. I potentially have to say yes to clients. I potentially need to say yes to that dinner date or that request, or I may well have taken that time at my working space, but suddenly the CEO approaches me and I'm like, oh my God. And so I guess my question for you as an expert in this space, what advice have you got for anybody listening right now that's going, yeah, I get it conceptually, but how on earth do I manage my own feelings of guilt at saying no, or that fear of missing out, or that concern about missing that deal or that money or what's being discussed in that meeting? What thoughts do you have on that?
Well, there's a lot in that question. So first of all, let's talk about, I've blocked out this time and I'm trying to protect it to create space. And then the CEO asks if they can see me. So there's a couple of things. First of all, have you just checked that? Just reply back and say, hey, I've actually got something else on at that time. Any chance you could do it afterwards? I just sometimes think we assume that just because it's a CEO that I can't check. And I think the first thing we can do is just check that it is okay to do it at another time, and don't feel that sense of obligation that just because it's the senior manager, the CEO or my manager or someone who I perceive to be in a higher position of power, that I have to say yes. I think it's okay to check. And, my experience of the world, maybe I'm just very lucky, is that I find people most of the time to be quite reasonable. And if I just say, hey, I've got something else I'm doing at that time, any chance, let's say you've blocked from 9 to 11 and they're trying to book you at 10, say, hey, I've got something on at 10, any chance we could do it at 11 or 12, or here's 10 other options or whatever. Because I just think sometimes we fall into the trap of just assuming I have to say yes. And so I want you, as the late, great Stephen Covey would say, give yourself some space between stimulus and response. So rather than just, someone sent you an invite, rather than just going, click, I'll accept, pause and think, I wonder what would happen. Play it, make a game of it. Wonder what would happen if I asked if we could just do it a bit later. Just ask. Now, they may come back and say, no, sorry, this is the only time and it has to be then and blah, blah. Okay, then maybe it has to be. I'm certainly not going to say to you, upset your CEO at all, not at all. And in some respects, that's what that space could be for, because it could be that the CEO wants to talk to you about some amazing opportunity, and thank goodness you protect, that's adaptive capacity, right? Thank goodness you protected that time, because now you've got the space to have the conversation with the CEO. But with most other people, this notion of guilt or not saying no or lots of things. So I know a lot of people who run their own business, and it's almost like they feel as though if their client asks for something, it's the whole, jump how high kind of stuff. But if it's a client, I better act and I better respond. And that makes me a super responsive person. And I'm trying to be in service to them. And so I've got to give them everything and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, the moment you start doing that, you start to actually do the opposite, because it's just not sustainable. And so to be in service to clients, and whoever they might be, your internal clients, if you run your own business or you're working in an organization, whoever that might be, the people for whom you serve, you cannot be in service to them if you're not in service to yourself, if you're getting yourself sick, or if you, I've got another client who got quite sick with an immune deficiency issue, and all of a sudden now had to take several weeks off work because they just burnt themselves out so much, right? And so it's really about the irony, if you will, or the paradox of, in order to serve others, I have to serve myself and keep myself in good shape. And we talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. There's a bit of scarcity in that. What happens if I don't take that call right now? I might not get the gig or whatever. I'm like, if they really want you, it's all good, right? If that's the kicker that says just because you didn't answer a call or do a meeting in that moment, then they may not be a client you want to work with anyway, right? I'm all about the joy of missing out, right? So maybe that's just an age thing, but I'm quite happy when if I can't make it to something, or if I'm choosing not to go to something, I find that quite joyful, that I'm creating the space to be, do, and have what I want to have, and have the choices to do what I want to do.